Okay, today what we're going to do is we're going to work on the gourd a little bit. I want to get some highlights into the nodules that we've already placed in here, and I'm going to reinforce some of the shadows. So as you can see on the picture, you've got some highlights and then some shadows, and the shadows are a little bit longer than what I have now. So we're going to use straight golden ochre for the shadows, but I'm going to use my eradicator, and this is a number 4 eradicator, and all I did was get it damp, and we're going to go in and take some of that color out so that we get a highlight. Wipe it off, and I'm going to use a piece of paper towel to dab at it as well, because that'll get up some of the loosened paint. And you want to wipe your brush in between, make sure it's moist, because if you don't wipe your brush in between, unfortunately what happens is you're just reapplying the paint you just took off, and you don't want to do that if you can help it. And we're just going to do this a little bit, and then we'll see where we're at with it. You don't want to take off too much or too many places either. Okay, so we got the highlights back in pretty much the way I want them. Clean that brush out really well. And now I'm just going to pick up some of the golden ochre, or the gold ochre, and that'll be our shading. And it's some of these in here need to have some shade, and I'm just going to put quite a few down, and then we'll go back in and soften the edge. Now whether they're the ones that you've highlighted or not, they're still going to need a shade. And then we need to do another glaze on this after when we get this detail done. We want to make sure this is nice and dry. Soften that edge away. And by doing that, creating the value change, the highlights and the shadows, is what makes them stand out more. So we're going to let those dry. And while that's drying, we're going to do a little bit more work on the leaves. We're going to start on this leaf because we need to define that flip a little bit more. And we'll have to put in some shading and remove some of the highlights that I want to put in there. I'm going to use just a Sentinel green and the Hooker's green, and then a touch of the indigo blue to make it darker. So just a very small amount, very small leaf here. And I'm just going to outline it first so you can see what I'm doing here. We kind of lost what was happening on this leaf. And I'm just going to soften that inside edge away. Give it a place to go. So what's happening is this leaf is just twirling up basically like that. It's making more green. Should have made more than what I thought. Okay, I'm going to just add some of that in. And then if I need to, we can soften it away. Now I did get some on the apple, so I'm going to just sweep that out. As long as it's still that wet, that's pretty much all you need to do if you happen to go over like that. Just make sure your brush is drier than the paper, and it's just like picking up a puddle. Okay. So that makes a little bit more sense in my mind's eye as I look at that leaf. I'm going to darken it right in there again. I'm going to separate this one from that one. And from here. Work on this outer edge first. Grab my magnifying glass because I'm having a hard time seeing. There we go, that's better. Wrong leaf, this one. I'm going to take some of that same watered down color. And I did put a glaze on there. I'm going to stay away from that corner because I want that highlight to be there. Okay. Now this is wet on dry, so I did not glaze it. I didn't want to anyway, simply because I don't want it to run into that portion that's still damp next to it. And clean the brush and soften that edge. And I'm just going to run it up. To soften it. I do want it a tad darker up there too. I want it to appear to be separate, separating that front one from the back one. Okay, that looks better to me. This is pretty watery, but it's going to add some color and value. So in other words, when we're doing that type of a glaze, you don't want to fill in the complete leaf. You want some of that first value you'd lay down to be there. So don't cover the entire area. Hopefully that makes sense. You want those extra values to show. Okay. And we still have accents and so forth to go into this. Now I'm doing this wet on dry. And again, I don't want to cover the entire area of that dark. I want that other dark to show through as well. The more values you can get, the more realistic your paintings will be and look. Softening that in. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that looks better to me too. I hope it does to you as well. as you apply your water glaze. And you want to get it right to the outside edge. Making sure you can see me, and it appears as if you can, so that's a good thing. I'm going to start where I want it to be the darkest, which is over in the corners. Add just a little bit darker down here, but just the golden ochre, because I want that to soften in a little bit better, and that'll make that happen. So now I'm going to clean my brush because I don't want straight golden ochre in there, and I do need some more paint. I can't believe it. So I'm going to do that right away too. Right, so I'm going to start up here. Just kind of sweeping that color on gently. There we go. Yeah, this is going to make quite a bit of difference on this. And that's what it needed. And those highlights that we took out, it'll be softer too this way. So, I'm going to take a little bit of that green. I'm going to add some of the golden ochre to it. Give it a little bit of a brown cast so it's not the same color as the leaves. Alright, that's better. And the first thing I'm going to do is that leaf, or stem. So I can keep my hand out of that. I want to make this look a little bit separated. That's better. It's darkening it. That's a good thing. We're going to leave the tip the same color. Grab my magnifying glass. Having an issue with visual today. Okay, I did go outside. Same color we created with the Sentinel green, the hooker's green, and the golden ochre. And I'm going to create a stem for both of these. I'm going to connect them together first and then create a stem. Well, let's work on this one a little bit more. It's nice and dry, other than the stem. And what I want to create is a shadow between the veins. Now I got enough color on there. Softening that in. With a clean, damp brush. Alright. My whole brush got wet by falling in the water bucket, so I'm going to wipe it off. Since we've got these right here. wipe off the paint you just picked up. I'm using a brush in the same position I would to put in a line straight up and down. Sometimes that works better. I'm also going to grab a piece of paper towel. That'll help pick up some of that paint that we just removed. And we're going to go right down the line here. This just gives the illusion of highlights on those veins. Now I'm not scrubbing when I do this, I'm just gently moving it as if I were adding the vein, basically. It's what's going on. And it just gently picks up that paint. Paper's buckled right there from the, and I'll show you how to straighten that out at the end of the design so you can see how we can fix that. Okay, I'm going to move this so I can get at this side a little bit better. There we go. First thing I want to do is just kind of define that edge of that corner of the leaf. There we go. You always want to curve your veins because otherwise they're not going to look, they're going to look way too stiff and then they don't look realistic. Never seen a straight line of a vein anywhere on any leaf, so it's always important to curve them. Just separating those two leaves out a little bit better there. Okay. Turn that a little bit like this. So we're going to have the veins come up this way. Here, because it's, oh, let's see. Yeah, they would come up this way. Got to think about how your veins are growing, and you want to make sure that you get the veins in there the right way. So we're going to let those dry. And we're going to have one real faint vein in here. And like this. And these are just real faint. You don't need them real dark. And again, you want them nice and soft and curvy. So there, we're going to dry those. Everything's nice and dry. I've changed to a new eradicator that's hopefully a little bit stiffer, and I'm going to let that set up a little bit more, but we're going to take the highlights on these veins in here off so that they're more noticeable. This one might not be small enough. And these are real tiny veins in here. You can barely see them anyway. Now this is not the center of interest. This area in here is the center of interest. So we don't want this to be real bold or anything anyway, but we want them to look like veins for sure. It seems to be working. That's a good thing. Hopefully that'll be good. We're going to start on the top of the squash. So if we look at the picture one more time, this is the darkest area, and then we'll do the bottom section one more time as well. I'm going to turn this one more time this way so I can get at it. I need to wet it first. And you want to go further out than where you really want the paint to be. But you don't want any hard lines. Getting this edge a little bit wetter just simply because it's going to be drier by the time I get to it. Okay. And I'm going to go back to my number 6 and pick up this color. Make sure it goes to a point. That's always important, even when you're doing a glaze. Kind of going around some of those green areas. And again, I'm not going to cover the entire part that's watered because I want this to soften in. Sure I got enough water on here further than I need. There we go. Pick up the paint and go to a point. Yeah, It's a much prettier orange. Here we go. And again, I'm not covering the entire red area because I want some of the other values to show through. Give it form. Okay. And we still have shadows to put in. But I want to get some of this color on the leaves. I'm going to go for this tip first. I'll get that color in there. I do want to have a little bit of that color right in here. And then right over here. And I'm just going to, and that was wet on dry.